Hi everyone and welcome to Get In Nerds. I'm Tim and I've just finished watching The Marvels. Now, this is a film that's had some controversy around it. It's opened as, I think, the worst box office for an MCU film, and I don't really know why. It's certainly not as good as Civil War or Endgame or Iron Man 1 even, but it's not bad. It's got some really good elements to it, and I really want to take you through them. This is the first one of our new review styles, so I'm going to take you through some of the good bits, some of the less good bits, give you a bit of a summary of what I think of the movie, and I think you'll see where I'm coming from by the end. First things first, a quick 20-second plot summary, no real spoilers in here. Basically, after the events of Captain Marvel 1, Carol went back to her planet and destroyed the superintelligence. That's obviously upset a few people, and it's also caused some not insignificant devastation on that planet. Since then, one of the Kree, Dar-Ben, has been trying to get her own back on behalf of her planet against Captain Marvel, and now she's found a way, which is to strip all of the planets that Captain Marvel loves of various elements that they need to make their own planet livable again. So that's the basic plot of the film. Basically, it's whether or not Carol, Kamala, and Monica can save the day. And it's not a bad film. You know, I think there's quite a lot that got left on the cutting room floor that I think might have actually been useful. They kept cutting the film down and down. I think at one point it was supposed to be over 2 hours, and then it was an hour and 45, and then at the end of it was like 90 something minutes. I'm not sure it helped it, because I think that there's some big gaps in the backstory or in the that they could have just filled in with some more information that might have actually made the story a little more cohesive. I think it was good. But let's get into some more of the specifics on the film. So I've got 5 good points and 5 less good points. My first good point, Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel is brilliant. She really looks like she's having fun being there. She's on the ball. I didn't find her getting as annoying as I thought I would after a while, but actually she seemed to grow through the film. She had a real arc of writing fan fiction about Captain Marvel in the beginning through to actually being a Marvel at the end. And it was a nice arc for her, and I thought the actress, Iman, played it perfectly from beginning to end. I thought she was a really great character. Also in this one, Brie Larson got to act, and we didn't see that much in the first one. She didn't seem to have much by way of charisma or emotion, which I think was a real letdown in the first film, because she's actually a really good actress. She can do it. She has an Oscar and everything. But for some reason in this character she's been put into, it just felt a bit dull in the last couple of ones that I've seen her in. Captain Marvel and Endgame. Both times she just felt wooden, and in this one it actually felt like she could relax a little, and actually surprisingly enjoyable once you let her do that. There's a really fun fight scene in the first act of the film, and they destroy a house that they're fighting in, and it's really creative, it's fun, you can tell that the people doing it were having a good time. It wasn't overly heavy-handed. Captain Marvel's a very overpowered character. She could take on Thanos if he hadn't with the stone, and I think that it didn't feel like she was too overpowered in this scene, and there's a mechanic where they switch places, and I think that really helped, actually, because it meant that you had different power levels going through the scene. But it was really good. Kamala's family could have come off really cheesy, because they are quite stereotypical, quite protective and clingy. But it didn't. Actually, they came off really sincere, and I think they were actually a really big plus for the film for me. And actually, I never watched Miss Marvel because I didn't think it was for me. But having seen her and the interactions with her family, I might have to go back and actually watch it now, which I'm quite looking forward to. My last plus side for this one is more technical, which is around the sets for the film were so much better than a few of the ones we've had recently. Multiverse of Madness and Quantumania seem to rely a lot on volume screen and big green screens. And this didn't seem to rely on that so much, which was actually a really enjoyable experience because you could see people actually touching things and you could feel like they were in a place. They weren't on some goopy background, it wasn't blurry. It made a really big difference, I think. I think that one of the things Marvel could do more, which would probably cost less, would be to actually just put people in real places. I don't know why they use the volume screen. I don't think it saves them money, especially looking at the budgets for some of these. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, other than they have this big screen and they want to use it. Maybe, but who knows? All right. Some of the bad points, and there are a few. We do 5 and 5 on this show. So 5 good points, 5 bad points. Where it was used, it was awful. The CGI was just dreadful in a lot of places. Really no, sort of like it was cut out on Photoshop, where you had people on space, and in certain scenes you could really tell that they'd rushed the CG. Things weren't layered properly. You could really feel like they were pushed for time at the end. I think in the last edit they probably had to do a load of re-renders for certain pieces. That's my guess, and because of that it pulled me out a lot more than I wanted it to. Dar-Ben had the worst costuming I've ever seen. I don't understand it. It was very strange. I don't have anything else to say on that. If you watch it, and I do suggest you do, you'll know what I mean. So I mentioned earlier that they have a mechanic where they switch powers if 2 or more of them use it at once. I think that's how it works. And there's some really great scenes where they're doing that. But there's also inconsistencies with it where you can see 2 of them using powers. They don't switch places. You can see that they are, I don't know if that just wasn't supposed to be in that order, because at the end they don't do that anymore, so maybe that was supposed to happen earlier. But either way, whatever entanglement they had that made them switch places seemed iffy in some cases. It might just be because there was a lot going on that it was hard to keep track of who was where. I don't know. I said before, I think a lot was left on the cutting room floor of this film. A lot was cut. And I'm not sure it was for the better. I think there were bits of it I would have cut. Coming soon. But there seemed to be a lot missing, from backstory through to just bits of character development that you needed. There's a bit with Captain Marvel where they're trying to evacuate a planet and they have to leave some people behind, and Ms. Marvel looks at her really disappointed, like, how could you leave people behind? You're supposed to be this amazing hero, and that's the last you hear of it. And I'm convinced they did some more character work around that in the edit, and they got rid of it for time, and I think it was a crying shame. I think it would have been really good to see some actual character development between them, and especially for Carol, where all of the criticisms for the last film was that there was no character development. It would have been nice to have seen some in this one, but that was really it. Number 5, the musical scene. I don't get it. I don't get why they decided to put a musical in the middle of an MCU movie. It didn't make a lot of sense. The costuming around that whole piece was weird and looked really cheap. It looked honestly like a episode of a Disney Plus show from 1993, and it sounded awful in places. They had to sound the alarm, but they were singing, sounding the alarm. It just didn't work, and I don't know why it didn't work, other than the MCU is not a musical. And I don't think it suited the general atmosphere of the movie at all, because actually it wasn't as silly stupid as they made it out to be in the trailers. It was quite a serious story. There was some actual real heartfelt points in it where, it got me, and that doesn't happen all that often. And the fact that they decided to throw in a silly musical piece in the middle that was unnecessary, it hadn't been referenced before, or I'm guessing it will never be referenced again, just seemed pointless. So I do have some questions. Normally I have some questions in any film I go to. This one's no different. My main question on this one, I'll do one per review, is how is it that the Kree people couldn't breathe on their own planet, but they could breathe on a barren rock at the beginning of the movie? I don't get it. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe it made sense to somebody else. Maybe that planet had atmosphere, even though it was a barren rock. I don't know. They weren't wearing the face masks they were wearing for the rest of the film. I didn't get it. It's just me. My trophy for this film, because every film gets a trophy, the practicing scene. So where their switching mechanic was in play and they were swapping powers, they did this montage, like a training montage of swapping powers, and they were juggling and doing skipping rope, and that was so much fun. It was really good, and it brought out the character in them all. You could see them all having a laugh with it. You could tell they were actually enjoying being there, and that's not something I'd seen for a while from an MCU film, to be honest. I haven't seen people actually enjoying being on set for a while, and it looked like they were. Whether or not it's true or not, or they're just really good actresses, but it felt real, like they were actually having a good time with it. And that makes me have a good time with the film. So, in summary, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's not Civil War, it's not Endgame, it's not Iron Man 1. It's not even Captain America First Avenger. I don't understand how they spent the money they spent on it. In all honesty, it feels like it could be done for half the money. We've seen really good films recently done on half or less of the money, and I think that, however, that money's getting spent somewhere, and I think it's in CG and I can't even say sets, but it feels like a lot of money's being sunk into CG. But actually, superhero movies don't need to be bigger every go. They just don't. They could go smaller. When they were having the fight in the house, it felt really good because it wasn't just a massive fight in space where the world's in danger. It was just some people in a house, scared, having a fight. Sort of John Wick moment for MCU, and I don't know why they don't lean into that. I think they really could. It would be really good. Whoever decided to put the musical scene in should be waterboarded until they repent of their sins. There's no excuse for it. It wasn't good. I think the only reason it was kept, in all honesty, is because it was absolutely vital to the plot. I could feel the cringe. It went I never used that word, but it went all the way out the back of my neck, and it's like, please don't ever do it again. If you're watching, just don't do it. There are other ways. One of the things that this and Secret Invasion have done is they seem to have radically nerfed Nick Fury. I don't know why, because he was a really great, powerful character. He had an imposing presence. If you saw his silhouette in one of the MCU films, it would make you go, ooh! And I don't know, it just doesn't seem that way anymore. I don't know if they're trying to phase him out, to phase somebody else in. whatever that might be. But they've made him really old really quickly, and they had him herding cats for a decent chunk of this film, which wasn't ideal. He could have done a lot more. Well, I won't talk about Secret Invasion. Honestly, as I said, the better on that one. But in this film, certainly, he could have been a bigger part and a less comic reliefy part. That's really it for this one. I think it's not as bad as it's being made out to be by some, and it's worse than some others have made it out. It's probably what you would call a popcorn average, run-of-the-mill movie, and if it hadn't cost nearly $250 million to make, it would be like a 6 or 7 in my book. That does the budget skews it for me, because I think all the things they could have done with that money. You know, you could have made 5 really good lower budget movies for that money. And I don't know why they didn't. I wish they had. There's no need to go as big as they've gone. Once you get to universe saving, and you do it more than once, there's a certain level of it's very hard to keep track of stakes. You know, oh, this is a universe, and I'm going to fall into that universe, and then the world's going to end, and billions of lives in the balance. Keeping stakes at an appropriate level is really hard. And you know, in the first Iron Man movie, it wasn't a world-saving thing. It was, you know, 2 competing visions for a company. You know, in the second one, in Captain America, it was fighting the Nazis, but it wasn't universe ending. I think the problem they're having is that they've gone up and up and up, and now they don't know how to bring that back down. I'm hoping they do that with something like Daredevil. I think it'd be really good if they could bring it back down to Earth and start building up from Earth again. If they do that, I think the MCU's got a future. A lot of people have called it. I still have hope. I've been following it since before Iron Man, and I will probably be following it long after all of this current crop have gone as well. I really hope you enjoyed this review. It's my first one in this kind of style, so if you like it, tell me. If you don't like it, tell me. I'll try and move things around. I hope you like the van as a set and as a place to do these reviews from. And if you've got any comments, questions, limericks, feel free to stick them down below. Please hit the subscribe button. I'd like to get to 200 this year if I can possibly do it. Big ask, I know, given that 6 weeks left and I'm at 140 something. But I'd really appreciate your time and your sticking around. That being said, get in, nerds, we've got work to do. Come with me.